Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a GameStar presentation tonight. I have the pleasure of bringing you the semi-finals for the Landslide LAN over in southeast Melbourne. It will be between Ezreal Life and Quarantine. Landslide's been going on all day. I am only just joining it now. My name is Coldblood, and joining me will be Scrib. How are you, boss?
Yeah, I am great, and I am awfully keen to jump into this match. It is a semi-final for the landslide tournament that is being held in Melbourne. So we have our Quarantine on our right and Ezreal Life on our left, and all the bans have been gone out. So, Cold, which ones of these bans do you think are more targeted, and which ones do you think are more of the generic kind of bans?
Well, there's a lot of junglers been banned out, the Lee Sin, the Vi, and the Evelynn. All of them apply a lot of pressure early on, and from what you've told me, the guys on the right here, Quarantine, they like to play a slow, conservative game. So, well, actually, it's the other side that's taken out the early game aggressors. So it's in their favour that the enemy have banned that out. Zed very much picking up popularity in the mid lane because people remember that he's still incredibly strong until people start picking up hourglasses. And then for the bans for Quarantine, Ryze and Orianna. Ryze, of course, resurging in popularity in the top lane because of the tier changes they generate over time now, which definitely helps him out since he can only charge it by attacking something. And then Orianna, just an all-around very strong mid laner when someone with a lot of mechanical skill is picking her up. So overall, I'd say all very decent bans. Not they may be targeted because these players may have played against each other earlier in the day in the double elimination, but all pretty smart.
Yeah, well, we have seen the Leona being picked up for Team Quarantine and the Lucian, which is the exact same bottom lane matchup that we saw them play against Smegma earlier in the day. But they did decide to ban out Lulu, Annie, and it was Lulu, Annie, and another aggressive support. I forgot which ones they were, but they did focus most of their bans on the support when they picked up the Leona. But as we have already gone through the bans, they haven't decided to do that this match, but yeah, the same bot lane matchup coming out from Quarantine.
I'm wondering if this will signal a Morgana pickup for the Ezreal Life guys, because of course the Black Shield can easily negate the initiation from Leona. Of course you can get around that by just switching targets once the Black Shield goes down, and later on Morgana definitely struggles to contribute compared to a Leona. And there you go, locked in straight away, so we know where the Morg is headed. Will they go for their AD carry now? It would be safe because they know who they're against, or will they opt for something else? We'll assume that the Amumu is going into the jungle, and that's already a lot of AoE presence just with the Curse of the Sad Mummy and the Soul Shackles. So they could go for Misfortune. She has just been remade to be much stronger, but they could also go for the Jinx or the Caitlyn. Both are available.
Yeah, well,
Trist.
Hovering over the Triss, that's quite interesting. I mean, I would have personally, I feel Caitlyn's probably the safest pick against someone like a Lucian. I mean, Jinx really isn't offering all that much in the ADC role, I find, compared to what else is out there at the moment. But there you go, the Triss being locked in, so that is fairly interesting. And as you said, that's heading towards more the AoE comp that they have already progressed towards.
Yeah, the Tristana Morgana is very strong at disengaging between the Buster Shot, the Rocket Jump, and then was it Dark Binding of Morgana. They're going to be able to get away from this Leona very easily. But as you pointed out, Lucian an incredibly strong lane bully. Tristana very weak in the lane unless she gets ahead, which she's not going to against these guys. Wouldn't be surprised to see them getting zoned a bit, but actual kill potential for the Lucian Leona going to be very low, so they're going to be relying on their mid game here.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, the kill potential at bottom lane, I mean, if we can presume the Amumu is the jungler, having him come down and gank bottom, is there much of a kill potential even there if the Amumu decides to show a presence? If we presume the Jarvans are going to be in the jungle for Team Quarantine, I mean, they have quite a lot of kill potential down in their bottom lane with the Leona and Lucian.
Yeah, definitely. It accelerates once you get to that point because Black Shield doesn't do a thing against the Cataclysm. Trista will be able to escape it quite easily. Morgana will be more vulnerable. And then the Amumu, they can easily capitalize on over-aggression coming out from Leona Lucian, which is a real possibility because they're a very, very strong lane combo, a lot of burst damage. So I think it's going to be more of the waiting game for the Ezreal life. They need to wait for the opportunity. Then they've definitely got some potential. And a shout out to Custom Minion One in the Twitch chat who is hoping to be wished some luck.
Well, good luck to custom minion. Well, so they're hovering over VLAD and Ziggs, both very very high in the AOE
Hmm.
department. They did hover over the Gragas at some point, but for Team Quarantine, they've gone for more of a tanky sort of. They've got the Jarvan, they've got the Renekton, they've got the Leona. So how is an AOE matchup going to go to like? How are they going to play against sort of a more tanky, in your face kind of matchup team comp?
It means that the all-in potential of Leona, Renekton, and Jarvan is quite dangerous for them because they're going to be jumping all in the one area. And I mean, they are tanky, but you're talking about a lot of area damage here, and that's going to be amplified by the Hemo Plague of Vladimir. So I think it's still dangerous for them, despite the fact that they are quite a durable side for the time being. Lucian very strong later on, but does not hold a candle to a 6-item Tristana. She will obliterate him if she can survive this AoE. No, sorry, no, the initiation of the quarantine guys. Which, if they're dead off the bat from the Hemo Plague, the Mega Inferno Bomb, the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and even the Soul Shackles, this Triss could potentially be very very safe. And a Syndra will be at the last pickup of the game.
Yeah, that's gonna treat Quarantine fairly well in the mid lane. I feel Syndra, if played right, can provide a fairly good matchup against what we can presume is the Ziggs. But even though they've picked up the Vlad, the Morgana, even though they're going to be able to provide a lot of AoE damage, I presume they're going to be fairly tanky towards the end as well.
Yeah, definitely. So the Syndra versus Ziggs matchup. Syndra very low range, apart from flinging her balls in someone's face. Ziggs a very safe laner. He has been reduced in effectiveness a little bit, but still will be quite strong against the Syndra. She's going to hopefully have her running shoes on, able to dodge all the skill shots that Syndra will throw at her. And we can now reveal the summoners for this match, and the new heal will be coming out here, Luke. Oh, sorry, Scrib. It's, of course, the heal much, much stronger in skirmishes now that it gives you movement speed and it can be used on another person. Only affects 2 targets now. So, just further going with that defensive capability of the Tristana Morgana, they will be against an exhaust and then just a barrier from the Lucian. Definitely makes sense against that AoE we talked about. Barrier will certainly help in the effective HP.
So yeah, intentionally that is going to lower that kill potential that Quarantine do bring to their bot lane. But as far as minion clearing, as far with the mid lane, Ziggs against the Syndra is the Ziggs is going to have a bit of an easier time farming compared to the Syndra. Is she? Isn't is he?
Yeah, once Syndra picks up a few levels, she's able to clear waves very efficiently. It's going to be down to Alf Stewart to try and bully her out of that one. But the kill potential of Syndra at level 6 vastly outpowers the Ziggs. He's more of a keep them at bay. He can roam, he can stop the counter. He can counter push quite effectively. But if Syndra lands a single stun on him, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. We can see that he has opted to take barrier, which makes a lot of sense against the J4 Syndra. And of course, the satchel charge will help him disengage from the J4 if he does get closed into the Rocky Cataclysm. And last but not least, the last change is the Ghost on the Vlad, which is a popular choice on him. He's not a popular champion lately, but when he was played, you need to be mobile on him. He's very low range, but he relies on being next to the enemy a lot. So taking the Flash Ghost, it helps him quite a bit in the laning phase. Against a Renekton with Ignite, though, he is definitely going to have to play defensive. Maybe the first level he can try and bully the Croc around, but after that, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Keeping in mind, Renekton's dominance has been nerfed early on and buffed later, so he has a little bit more of a window there to try and farm up to that very strong late game.
Yeah, well, as far as the junglers go, is if the Amumu decides to kind of farm and not go as not pay as much attention to his lanes as to the Jarvan playing more of an aggressive, he's going to want to get a lot of ganks off. If Where do you think Quarantine are going to want to pay them more of their attention to with their jungler?
The Well, all of the lanes are a little bit difficult to gank. Vlad can be vulnerable early on, but with the two mobility summoners, they're gonna have to perfectly play out their CC train with the Ruthless Predator and the knock up from the standard and then Lance to it. The bottom lane, as we pointed out, very, very safe, and Ziggs going to be difficult to gank as well, at least until level 6 is gathered. So I'm not entirely sure where the J4 can head early on here. He may just want to try and bully the Amumu around because, of course, J4 much stronger of a duelist to the Mumu until, of course, the burst comes online for Amumu with the Tantrum.
Yeah, well, we are heading into the skin battle, and my client is just loading up, so I can't quite see the skins yet. But here we go; they have all loaded up. So for Team Ezreal, we have a full team of skins. They've got the Rocket Girl Tristana, the Pool Party Ziggs, Blackthorn Morgana, Bloodlord Vlad, and the Sad Robot Amumu. But only two skins for Team Quarantine, and I'm fairly sure Team Quarantine had a full set of skins the last time I casted them. So
Okay,
yeah.
so that's a good thing. They don't spend too much on the game. They have a little bit of restraint. I love the Bloodlord Vlad skin. That'll be good fun. Level 1 power. Because the trinkets were pushed back 30 seconds in when they're available to use, early aggression has become a lot more prevalent in the 4.4 patch and moving into 4.5. Do you have any predictions for who has a stronger level 1?
Oh, it's really hard to say. I mean, both teams do have the Suns, but I'm fairly sure Quarantine have a little bit more aggression. If Renekton decides to take up his stun, then you've got the Leona stun. Does Syndra do much damage in a level 1?
In an extended fight, she'll do a whole heck of a lot of damage because the Dark Sphere very spammable, but on-demand damage is not the highest. They do have the advantage of the Demacian standard providing vision. They'll be able to scout with that, and then of course Ardent Blaze, the W of Lucian, also provides vision, so they've got a little bit more of a defensive lineup. The pick potential of Ezreal Life is very high between the Bandage Toss, the Dark Binding, and that's about it, but those two are very, very strong. If I had to guess, I would say both teams just going to play it defensively because J4 and Amumu really like to get their first buff reasonably easy, and both teams have strong disengage potential, so an invade could be a waste of time. Keeping in mind First Blood not worth nearly as much before the 4-minute mark. So my prediction is a very passive early game.
Yeah, well, let's see if we head into any level 1 shenanigans as they buy up and head out of that pool. Both teams are buying fairly quickly, but it looks like Team Quarantine are going to split off. I mean, Renekton is going to his top lane, so they are a few pings going out as well, so they are just going to protect the whole range of their jungle. But we see for Team Ezreal, they are staying fairly close together. I mean, both the jungler and the mid lane are heading up the mid lane, so maybe they are looking to invade the blue. Nah, doesn't look like they are going to head straight to that blue.
No, just kind of running around, trying to catch up to each other. They will now do so. We'll go through the teams here, Scrib, and hopefully we don't miss any action. Representing Ezreal Life, we have AQN on the Tristana. She will be joined by Curly Please as the Blackthorn Morgana. We've got Alf Stewart as the Pool Party Ziggs in the mid lane. Up top, we have Al on Bloodlord Vlad, and rounding them out, Scumbag of the Match Award by keeping us waiting, Horse on the Sad Robot Mumu.
Yeah, well, Jarvan just starts spotting out the Morgana there with his spear. So gaining vision of her, she does shoot a Dark Binding into the bush, not hitting anyone. But for Team Quarantine, that we have, I actually personally covered them during the game, so earlier in the day, it was good. We have Maverick and Tortle with that bot lane composition, We have Frey on the Syndra in the mid lane, and we have Eeyore, Renekton in the top lane, and Jimmy on that J4 in the jungle. And Jimmy actually catching out that Morgana with that spear of his vision spear again in that yeah, that's just near the top rush of red. But both teams just falling back to their buffs, as you presumed, both just wanting to pick up their level 1 buffs without any problem.
Yeah, definitely, that makes sense. We'll have to see if Jimmy decides to go for the aggression early on here. They know that, you know, the Morgana and the Triss were quite spread out the bottom lane, so wouldn't be surprised for them to guess that red buff is being taken by the Mumu, and looks like J4 just wants to clear his own way anyway. We have a defensive trinket ward placed by Frey in the mid on the Syndra. They're going to know if Amumu goes for any shenanigans, but both junglers taking a reasonably passive start here. As far as items go, we have down at the bottom lane, of course, the Spell Thief's Edge on the Morgana. She procs that very easily with the Tormented Soil. So as soon as they hit the level 2, they're going to be going for that. Zenith Blade will end up missing, but a lot of damage goes down because of the Piercing Light from Lucian. It is the sole reason that he's so strong in the lane. And the Relic Shield is on Leona, so she's going to offer her partner a little bit of sustain. Normally you'd go a Doran Shield against something like a Morgana Triss, so the fact that she's gone for Relic Shield is more of an economic investment rather than...
So Renekton diving onto that VLAD, Mumu coming into the gank, an Ignite goes down on the VLAD, he's dropping very low, but the Q landing, the Bandage Toss landing from the Mumu onto the Renekton. Renekton dropping fairly low, but no kill just as of yet. Mumu got to his blue buff a little bit quicker than the Jarvan cleared his. Jarvan's trying to come in for a little bit of a gank of his own, but Renekton's fairly pushed up, so he's not going to be able to do too much. And similar playstyle from the Quarantine bot lane. The last game against Smegma, they played fairly aggressive. They were the ones that were always pushing the minions towards the tower, but I mean, Smegma are doing that to them now, so no, it's a bit of a different playstyle for Team Quarantine down the bot lane, but yeah, not much going on.
Yeah, they really need some levels on Leona. She needs to be able to be tanky enough with the Eclipse to jump in and try and get some CC down. Of course, we pointed out the Black Shield of Morgana makes it very hard for Leona to engage properly, so it's going to come down to how they engage it, this being the Ezreal life guys. So we can see J4 waiting around in the mid here. Alf Stewart has both of his summoners up, of course. The result of the top lane script was that Renekton is doing quite well in the CS, as you'd expect, before Vlad gets more levels in the transfusion, but the flash of his was burnt, so I'm not surprised to see a Mumu hanging out up here, because Vlad still has both of his summoners, but Renekton just going to back off for the time being, has 734, may be coming back with a Negatron Cloak. Now he's going to go Boots and Ruby Crystal, so wants a little bit more mobility and a bit more to make up for the loss of health on the Dominus.
Yeah, Mumu was spotted coming up to the top lane just with a ward, just as it was ending into the top rush, as his red buff fell off. Down in the mid lane, Jarvan landing, engage onto the Ziggs. Ziggs pushed out fairly quick. He had no mana left from the early aggression that he was playing onto the Syndra, and First Blood does fall. And Syndra will pick that up, so it didn't actually go to the jungler Jarvan. So, as you said, if Syndra gets ahead early, she's gonna be a little bit of a hassle in that mid lane.
Yeah, she's got 1340 gold.
Oh, down to the bot lane and exhaust onto the Morgana. Morgana dropping awfully low. She got caught by the Leona stun, but it's being turned around. Tristana on full HP. She dives towards that Maverick on the Leona. They decide to switch onto him, and she's gonna get the kill and knock it out. Lucian just getting that last auto attack, but does get caught by binding, and I think that is going to be lethal. Forced to flash, he's on 1 HP, and he will retreat to that tower. So lucky that didn't turn out to be 2 kills down for that bot lane, but it was just a 1-for-1 trade. And ADC for support, just heading towards Quarantine's favour, but brilliant play down in that bot lane. I mean, a lot of action happening early.
Yeah, so the stun landing in the mid is what set up that first blood, and then at the bottom lane, very, very back and forth, ends up being a killer piece for the AD carries, but Lucian will, well, actually Trist will get back to the lane first, so XP is not going to be a whole heck of a lot different. Lucian leading by about 7 CS at the moment, so as far as gold's concerned, Lucian winning out a little bit, which...
So Vlad all going out, he's deciding to initiate onto the Renekton. Renekton in all sorts of trouble, forced to retreat, he's on low HP, trying to do some sort of jukes from the bushes, but the QE follow-up from Vlad will pick up a kill, making it 2 for 2. And only a 200 gold difference, so not much in this game at the moment, or fairly even, and it looks like it's going to be just a real good game, actually.
Yeah, you're on fire with catching this action up in droning on in the mid a lot of the time, so good on you, boss. So in the mid lane, the difference between these guys is an extra Doran's onto Frey on the Syndra, and she does now have the unleashed power. So Alf Stewart, he will have his barrier up in about a minute's time, so hopefully for his sake he doesn't get engaged on in the interim. Dark Binding misses down to the bot. Zenith Blade will go in, the Dark Shield is a little bit too late, and the Piercing Light will do a whole heck of a lot of damage to the Morgana here. Does have a few total biscuits of regen. Looks like Jimbe, will he take the blue for himself? He does indeed. That will give him the Cataclysm, and of course Frey between Chalice and Double Doran's Ring has plenty of sustain as far as mana goes, so we'll have to see if Mumu decides to do the same thing and is going for more of the AP route, so I'm expecting him to be very aggressive.
So more action in the bottom lane. Quarantine deciding to initiate with the Leona stun. Leona copping quite a bit of damage there, but so did Triss, but she's just going to be able to heal that up. Dark Binding shot out from the Morgana just there for kind of a late initiation, but does get caught by a minion. But Leona with a long extended stun catches the Tristana. Tristana dropping very low. The shield from Morgana, saving her a little bit, but I mean, Leona copped a little bit of damage in that trade as well, but Lucian just not taking anything really, and they're going to be able to push that minion wave towards the bot tower. But Amumu hanging around the top lane, whether he wants to kind of go for a Nectar or not, he's just going to do a little bit of counter jungling on that Jarvan, but Jarvan is also looking like he's going to head for that top lane as well. Amumu is just going to sit in that bush, and I mean, I think we're going to have two junglers face to face now, so it's going to be all kinds of action in the top lane.
Both ultimates are available for them. Amumu's going to be coming in here. Nice dice away by Eeyore. Is going to flash away. Does take a Hemo Plague. Zig's ult will come in and just nick him on the feet. So a lot of presence here as Jimmy is going to be clearing away the raid. He needs to get up there quickly. Dominus is still available though. Just the problem is Vlad can dive towers with absolute impunity. Looks like Mumu going to be backing off for the time being. Will they be able to turn this one around? Eeyore very low. I think this will be more of a cover by Jimmy rather than a gank. But nice use of the abilities by Eeyore. Knew exactly when to dice out, and that will be good for them. So the problem for the Quarantine guys here, Scrib, is that both Vlad and Tristana are absolute late game monsters. They should be having more trouble in the lanes right now. But,
and talking about Tristana, she's actually just going to cop a stun from the Leona. Morgana's ultimate coming out, catches both of them. Leona dropping fairly low. The Lucian ult comes out. He is going to focus towards that Morgana. Tristana ends up picking up that Leona, and there's not much that Lucian can do, just dodging that Dark Binding from that Morgana. Morgana's just going to blue pill out of there, and there you go. So, Ezreal Life, just getting that 1 kill lead now, making the gold lead 700, so there's still not much in it, but yeah. Top lane.
Yeah, nice buster shot execution by the Triss. Like you say, top lane Eeyore going to engage onto Al here. Does still have Dominus, does have Ignite, so his kill potential actually is quite high. Is the blue... I feel like Ezreal Life, they could have gone for the dragon there and they would have had a numbers advantage. J4 going to be coming in onto Alf Stewart, who gets stunned up by the Syndra. Immediately flashes out of that one. Cataclysm is available, as is Curse of the Sad Mummy. Frey just going to levitate away from that bandage toss. And now that Leona has rejoined the fray, the dragon fight would be very difficult for the Ezreal up. I think the only thing stopping them going for dragon is that J4 was hanging around the mid lane. So they could have picked that one up with the advantage garnered at bot, but they go a little bit conservative. And in the mid lane, Alf Stewart will be flashed upon by the Ziggs, and Mega Inferno Bomb will not be enough to finish that one off. It took a double flash from the jungler and the mid lane of Quarantine, but most certainly worth it, as Syndra going to recall behind a bit in the CS. Jimmet doing very, very well. Going to be stunned up by the bandage toss, but I don't think there's a lot that the sad mummy can do here.
God, sorry, I think you just cut, it might be me, but I think your mic was just cutting out for a little bit there, but yes. Quite a lot of action for the pre-10 minutes. I mean, both teams keeping a fairly close gold lead towards each other. VLAD's applying a lot of pressure onto this top tower, and there's not much Renekton can do. I mean, he's just getting harassed out by that Q. Now down in the bot lane, a stun lands straight onto that Tristana. The bucky shot actually pushing Leona towards him, followed up by the flash from Lucian to get the kill. Morgana on the retreat. It looks like she may make it back to her tower safely, but a flash stun from the Leona is going to catch her, and the Lucian auto attacks and the Q. She does pop her ultimate, but doesn't actually catch anyone, forced to flash behind her tower. And Lucian, I think if he copped one more of those tower hits, he would have actually fallen to the Morgana, but he is just going to be able to return to that farming and apply a little bit more pressure onto that bot lane. I don't think they're really in the sort of position to go for Dragon. I mean, J4 is up in that top lane, and speaking of top laner, Ganks looking to come out too. The VLAD pops, goes, and his pull, so he is going to be able to get away fairly safely. I mean, Renekton wasn't really able to initiate that fight with his health that was at the moment, but it looks like J4 wants to, get a bit more.
Yeah, well, he got the respawn timer for the blue there. Well, if he didn't, he definitely has it now. So it looks like they want to try and contest that. As well, it's just going to continue clearing out the jungle. Has gone for the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, which will give him a little bit of armor as he builds up the Spirit Drain stacks. No? Okay, that doesn't give armor, silly me. But he's going to be quite squishy going into these fights. There's not a lot of hard initiation on the side of Ezreal life, and what initiation there is not the most durable, and we already talked about how tanky the side of Quarantine is. So going into this mid game here, red team definitely gonna come out on top with how much power Lucian has, because Tristana's falling into a bit of a slump now. Her abilities won't do enough damage to really contribute as much. Of course, rapid fire doesn't cost mana anymore, so that is a bit of a help. But it's definitely down to Quarantine to put the pressure on, because they've let the Vlad farm, they've let the Tristana farm, and they're against a Ziggs who easily pushes waves back. So it's going to be down to Quarantine to make the plays happen.
Yeah, well, J4 being a generous jungler has given that blue buff towards the mid lane, so Frey's going to be able to blow out a lot more stuff, and the Amumu bandage goes onto a minion, but he's able to catch Frey in that ultimate. She's surely going to fall to his AoE damage, and Horse picking up that kill. Jarvan trying his best to save her, but he won't be able to do much himself, getting dropped to below half HP. So there you go. I think Ezreal Life are going to set up for this dragon right now. I mean, there's no vision on it from either team. They are setting up for it right now, and it looks like the first dragon in the match is going to go to Ezreal Life. I mean, if Jarvan's going to run past this and probably get killed, Lucian's going to try to contest it with the Leona. The exhaust goes out onto the Morgana. Morgana's taking a whole lot of damage. Jarvan, I think, jumped in there, but did get blown up quickly, but distracted 3 of the team members so that Lucian and Leona were able to pick up a kill for themselves. But it looks like they are going to switch their attention straight onto that Amumu. Surely Amumu will fall. The barrier forced to pop onto Lucian. Lucian just getting away on low HP, but he's going to leave his double buff Leona to die, and she's just going to have a full-on brawl with that Ziggs, but will surely drop to that Tristana. Now Tristana, the big wielder of that double buff, decides she wants to try follow out Lucian, but he's long gone.
That's an aggressive recall.
Yeah, right in that bush where that ward is, so she's just going to blue pull away and leave Syndra to hopefully apply some pressure on that mid tower for her team.
Yeah, so that was an interesting fight. The dragon did end up going the way of Ezreal Life with some nice smiting by Horse, although Jimmy got incredibly close there. And what I liked about his Cataclysm, like his dying move, was it gave enough room for Lucian and Leona to get out of there. Leona didn't end up escaping, but I like the idea of the Cataclysm at least. So a couple kills go away around, and the dragon picked up by blue team, who are sitting on a comfortable 3,000 gold lead at the time being, and they definitely have the late game advantage. Although they have, well, I think the problem with the Syndra pick is that she's got decent AoE, got great assassination, but there's so many damage threats on the side of Ezreal life. Like you saw, Amumu dished out a lot of damage despite not being the tankiest of men. As down at the bottom lane, J4 going to be coming in, but that disengage very strong there. Solar Flare, and nice stun from Syndra is going to land on Leona. Buster Shot going to knock Syndra away, but not accomplish a whole heck of a lot. So Morgana is going to pay for the 4v2 there, but are they going to turn this into something? Looks like Tristana's just going to get the heck out with her double buff, going to farm up the golems. Syndra's going to return to the mid to stop that tower falling, and this objective that Quarantine could pick up are exactly what they needed to do. Killing the Morgana is alright, but this is what they had to do to make it.
Oh, and the Ziggs popping his ultimate, and Syndra forced to flash trying to defend that, but he's going to follow up with the flash himself, catching her with his E, dropping very low, and I don't know why she decided to turn back into that, but Ziggs turning that into a kill. And yeah, well, surely they are going to get that mid tower in reply to that bot tower, but the bottom lane for Quarantine, they're going to continue pushing that, hopefully pick up second tower of the game. They're going to get caught by that Morgana ultimate, J4 dropping very low, forced to flash through the tower. Lucian doing all kinds of damage to Tristana, having their little ADC ward down there. Tristana still holding that double buff. Oh, and Lucian gets caught through it by Dark Lightning through that wall, and Tristana is immediately going to jump through there, getting the shutdown. She is going to get a reset and jump again, getting a double kill onto the Jarvan. She is going to be able to get a reset again and jump out of that Cataclysm and surviving with that Morgana shield. Excellent, excellent play by that Tristana there.
And meanwhile, Renekton will fall trying to defend the tier 2 in the mid. So beautiful play across the board from Ezreal life here. Going to pick up a whole heck of a lot of advantages for themselves. 6,000 gold in the lead. All of a sudden, 3 turrets in the lead as well. They only lose the T1 at the bot. The tier 2 didn't take too much of a scratching. Meanwhile, every outer tower is down for the Quarantine side and the tier 2 in the mid, with a massive push instigated by Al on the Vlad, who is going for, looks like an hourglass against the rather AD heavy side of Quarantine, whereas the Ezreal life guys, they have a lot of magic damage, which of course amplified by the Vladimir ult. But AQN on the Trist is starting to look very, very scary, being this far ahead of where she should be. You should only let her get a major item at the 20-minute mark. That's how you know you're shutting her down. So she's doing very well for herself. She's just going to continue scaling, particularly if Ezreal life keep making the plays like they have.
So they've Team Quarantine gone for a little bit of a ward clear, running into some trouble. Just a few things being thrown out here and there from both sides. No one copying any sort of real major damage, but for Team Quarantine, what do you think they have to do here? What do you think they have to focus on to turn this game around?
Well, they need to try and catch the Ziggs out of position so that he can't stop their objectives. They have really strong area, like zone control, which, I mean, Ziggs is probably better than all of them individually at zone control. But between Cataclysm, Solar Flare, all of Syndra's abilities, and then the zone ability of a Renekton, fighting in the jungle would be very beneficial for them. Before, you know, the AoE of Ezreal life ramps up. Lucian going to be engaged upon at the bottom lane, forced to flash away from the rocket jump of this Trist, who is just getting worse and worse for them as the time goes on. So yeah, I think Quarantine need to have fights on their terms in the jungle without getting completely obliterated by a wombo combo.
Yeah, and I mean, it's looking fairly hard for them to do that. Ezreal life doing very well with their wards. They are able to see half the map, and they're going to be able to see where they're coming, making it pretty hard for Team Quarantine to set up any sort of picks here and there. Dragon timer is in 25 seconds, so Ezreal life surely are going to be aware of that. A big Ziggs ulti coming out from the top lane, hitting the Jarvan, dropping him fairly low, but he was already low. Ow. Looks like he is going to be able to get away from the 3-man gank, but Ezreal life looking like they are going to reply and go, here's a bit of what we have to offer, and Morgana getting, Maverick, sorry, on the Leona getting caught, the Morgana ult coming out, not catching too many people. Renekton, exhaust onto the Renekton, sorry, and he gets caught by the Dark Binding. Anne forced to W out of there to get away, so she is able to survive, and 3 members of the Team Quarantine are going to fall with none from Ezreal Life able to fall for Quarantine, so they are just going to apply some pressure on this top tower, and even some more. I mean, they have Barons up. It looks like Mumu from the behind is going to land the bandage shots and his ulti, so there you go, 4 members for Zero. They are going to continue pushing to the last outer tower that they have, but they're probably not going to get that.
So that was brilliantly done by Al on Ezreal Life there to disengage so much that it gave time for the rest of his team to come in for a pincer move, and Quarantine did respectably well in applying their abilities, but at this point they're falling too far behind. There's and Ziggs is going to have a lot of gold in his pocket after that double kill. He's got 2,000 and has the makings of a either DFG, probably not likely, more an Hourglass, probably going to get Death Cap, and even Dragon going to be started upon by Ezreal Life here. Not a lot that Quarantine can do about it. They've only got 1 tier 2 left outside the base, and Baz Kebab, or Bazza, may be on the table for the Ezreal Life guys here, although they've got to be careful of the Syndra Leona AoE, because it is still, they've got to respect it. They can't get overconfident.
Yeah, especially, I mean, last team fight they did fairly well there, as you said, Al disengaging very well, and both teams just grouping up around the mid lane. Now Maverick getting burst on with getting caught by the Dark Lightning, and anyway forced to flash out actually, and Al copping a little bit of damage but nothing too lethal. So there you go. I mean, they've just come back from a blue pill, and I mean, Lucian's dropped to below half HP. I mean, he's just going to be able to regen that back, but I mean, Maverick's not going to be much use in a team fight at the moment. She's going to have to blue pill before making any sort of appearance.
Yeah, Solar Flare is going to be her major contribution, which I mean has a massive range on it, which doesn't actually tell me, but I know from playing against her that it is a massive initiator of the fight. Slice and Dice used by Eeyore to try and get aggressive on Carol Pliz, as Blade of the Ruin King now finished by Tristana. Very smart option against a very tanky just a very tanky lineup there. Gonna allow her to melt through the J4 and the Renekton to get to the very squishy Lucian and Syndra. Syndra would be smart to go for an Hourglass at this point, because she's quite vulnerable. And I want to point out that Carol Police's Soul Shackles have been really on point this game. Looks like she has picked herself up in needlessly large rods, so Soul Shackle's going to be doing even more damage now. But she's really good, or he probably, is really good at putting a lot of pressure on the enemy team by doing it, catching key members like the J4 and the Renekton, and saying you are stunned or you get away and leave your squishies exposed, which is a very difficult decision to face.
Yeah, and it's making it really hard for Team Quarantine, where they have a sort of matchup where they want to kind of get in your face with the J4 and the Renekton, and a pause has gone out, so I'm not quite sure which team.
Alf Stewart was the one who paused.
Oh, okay, so Alf Stewart's was it? Not quite sure, maybe having a bit of issues, but...
Oh, we're good now.
Oh, we're good? Well, anyway, on the pause, it looks like we have VLAD split out from his team a little bit. He's putting that pressure on to that top tower, trying to, they are trying to finish this game early with their lead that they have. I mean, Syndra getting caught with that Dark Binding, and immediate flash Morgana ult is going to catch out Maverick, and Aaron, she's taking so much AoE damage. You just see that AoE damage, and Triss just melting through them. They have taken barely any damage whatsoever, and Al was pretty much absent from that team fight. He did not do one thing, and Lucian and Syndra are forced to kind of retreat, and there's not much they can do. It's all Ezreal Life they can do. They're going to probably take out this mid tower, then they can focus their way onto the top, even probably get an inhibitor. I mean, they have all 4 of them up.
Yeah, they do have a lot of cooldowns down, which is the problem. They do have Buster Shot and Hemo Plague, though, which should be enough of a deterrent to be able to pick this objective up. AQN is going to be stunned up by Syndra after going much too far in. Ignite will finish him off, but J4 will pay for it, although very well played by Jimmy there. If he had not gone in, the Tristana would have easily gotten away. So, very worthwhile trade there. Beautifully played by Frey on the Syndra to catch out the Trist, who was getting a little bit too aggressive on poor Mr. Turtle as our black man Lucian. So the inhibitor is defended for the time being, but Bazza, a very real possibility for the Ezreal Life boys, particularly with Triss. Actually, she's going to forego attack speed and crit, and is going to get some defense against the Syndra, which definitely makes sense. And Banshees would be a great pickup at this point, because with a level 5 rapid fire, she's just going to destroy things for 7 seconds.
Yeah, and I mean the Syndra getting that gold bonus from the Tristana, she's just going to be even more stronger. But both teams now have a vision of that big Bazkavab. I mean, Leona just placing that ward down now, but is Quarantine really in a position to kind of go for Baron? I mean, even if they were, do you think they could pull off a team fight afterwards, or
They haven't got a hope in hell of engaging a Baron, starting it themselves, because just any number of these hero champions that walk up to them is going to be able to start a fight that you do not want to be in the Baron pit for. It's going to be incredibly dangerous, but I think they've got a decent chance at contesting it if it's engaged by Ezreal Life. They're just going to be doing a little bit of bush camping here. They are on a ward though, so Ezreal Life know exactly where they are. They've got to be very careful. The red team don't know that they're gathering in the river, and they're going to be coming in with a massive amount of AoE. Fortunately, Eeyore and Jimmy were able to get out of there, and that was very unfortunate for the Quarantine guys. They had the right idea, but they needed to have vision control, which
think you're breaking up there, Cole, but I mean, jeez. Quarantine, I mean, Ezreal Life had all their eggs in one basket there. They knew they were there, and I mean, an AoE comp, you don't want to be all sitting in a brush where they can see you.
Yeah, it was a high risk, high reward. And yeah, they may have just thrown the game away. To be fair, the death time is very, very low, only being around level 11 for the most of them. So, although they will be using a few ultimates here, the Nexus is now exposed. Morgana will end up falling to the damage of Syndra. Lucian going to be cataclysmed on by his own J4 as Al is just AoEing down the entire team. DFG used by Syndra to last hit the Tristana, but in the end the Nexus will fall, and Ezreal Life will be going ahead to the semi-finals. The grand finals, rather.
Yeah, well, there you go. That was the semi-final, and they've just made their way to the grand final. So congratulations, Ezreal Life, taking out Team Quarantine. Quarantine have had a brilliant day today at Lanslide, and I mean, it has Ezreal Life, just with all the AoE that they had in their plays. I mean, it was just brilliant to watch and an awesome game all round. But bad luck to Team Quarantine, who will be falling out. And there you go, Ezreal Life moving on to the grand final.
Yeah, Quarantine played very well in this game, particularly Frey. He had a fantastic go on the Syndra, but in the end it was not enough. They fell behind to late game monsters who accelerated that slump they have in the mid game, and it was very dangerous for them. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We should be bringing you, if not another semi, then the grand final. I think the next game may be Ezreal Life versus Aspire, but I'll have to double check that one. So thanks again for joining myself and Scrib, and we hope to be bringing you the next game. Have a wonderful night if you are leaving us.